In this video, I'll show you my 5-step method for dealing with your emails so that essentially you only see each email once and you deal with it straight away, as opposed to email taking a lot of your time and you're just wasting your time. So by the end of this video, you will not only have an inbox zero system that works very effectively, but your entire attitude towards checking your email should hopefully become better. So the first thing is thinking about the purpose of your inbox. You want to make your inbox a way where you receive new ideas which you otherwise may not have received, rather than it just being filled with junk. In an ideal world, you want to be excited by the prospect of checking your emails and be excited with checking the emails you receive every day, rather than it being a source of disappointment or an unpleasant experience. And I've yet to reach those ideals where email is something I look forward to every day, because there are some emails you just sit there and think, oh. But ideally you want it to be a source of inspiration and where new ideas come along and that you're excited by the opportunities that your inbox presents you with. So this comes from being intentional with who you give your email to and what you sign up to. So first thing is, don't sign up to opportunities where you don't feel hell yeah. Like, this is what Derek Sivers talks about in his blog post. If you haven't read it, I'll link it down below. And you don't want to just give it to brands that will market you or spam you. For example, when you're shopping online and it says, okay, 10% off if you enter your email, if that's only a one-off purchase that you're doing, don't use your personal email because they'll just fill you with marketing garbage. Instead, just use a temporary email service. I use 10minutemail.com. It's very reliable. It manages to work all the time. I've actually been using this for the dawn of time. How this email website still exists to this day is just magical, because I've used this since more than 10 years ago. And so it's always been reliable. It does what it says on the tin. Essentially, it's a temporary disposable email that lasts just for 10 minutes. So if you're just signing up to receive a coupon or somewhere where you're trying to do a one-off action but it has an email paywall, then instead of giving out your personal email, use this temporary email service instead. There are other temporary email providers out there, but this is just the one that's been the most reliable and that's worked for me. Step 2 is to think about the actions to take for each email. So each email should have one of these 4 actions. It's either a task, so you put it into a task manager, things in my case, an event, in which case I just put it into my calendar on Apple Calendars, something you need to read, in which case I'll send it to an app called Matter, which is my reading later service that I use. And 4th is something that I might need to save as a reference for later, in which case I use Notion. Now you might have different apps to do these particular tasks. You might use a different to-do app, you might use a different reading app such as Instapaper or Pocket, you might use a different referencing tool such as Evernote or Draft. Whatever it is, find apps that work for you. These are the apps that I use, but essentially your email should fit one of those categories. The 3rd step is to make this process as easy and frictionless as possible. And so this involves using integrations and keyboard shortcuts. So firstly, use an email that syncs across all your devices. For my email, I use the email provider Spark, which lets me add multiple accounts so that I can have both my personal email account and my uni email account and see them all in one go. And days where I'm feeling lazy and I don't want to use my laptop, I can do essentially all of the tasks, these 4 things which I'll explain how I do, on my phone, because I've got a system which makes it very easy for me to do that. So in terms of integrations, you can actually add your calendar directly onto Spark. So if your email concerns an event, what you can do is literally click that link on your email and it will create a calendar on your calendar automatically. You can edit the details, add reminders, so on and so forth, right within Spark. So that saves you from having to go from an email platform into your Apple Calendars or your calendar app that you use, and you can do that directly within the email app. Next is using keyboard shortcuts to speed up your workflow. So Spark actually have a section on keyboard shortcuts that you can customize to make it suit you. If you come from another email platform such as Gmail, you can actually have set preset templates and just click that button and it will set all the Gmail shortcuts for you. Or you can set shortcuts of your own, and that will make it easy to do things like delete an email or go back or reply. It's whatever you do with the email. I've I've also set up a keyboard shortcut for things. So if I press Command, comma, it actually pops up a little things dialog with the task, and it will pull attributes from that email. So if there's a particular text or links, it will fill all of that information directly into the to-do task, and all I have to do is edit the details or the title of the task and schedule when I want to see that to-do. Now for emails where your action is to read it later, I use an app called Matter, as I mentioned. And one of the features of Matter is that it lets you create your own email address that you can forward emails onto, and it will send it onto the app to read later. So if it's a newsletter article or an email that you want to read later, then I just forward it onto my Matter email and it will go into the app straight away. So the fourth thing is what to do with that particular email. Sometimes you might need to reply to that email, and if you can reply to the email there and then just go ahead and do that. However, if it's something that you need to reply to slightly later on, then what I'll do is I'll snooze that email for another day, and you can do that straight within Spark. If it's something that you need to take action on, I've already mentioned, you add it onto your things or your task manager. But if it's something that you need to do later, for example, sometimes I get emails saying my password expires in 90 days. Well, I don't need to know that now. Like, I can know that 5 days before or 10 days before, closer to the time of expiring. So if it's an action that needs to be done later, I can either snooze that email for later or add it onto my things and schedule it for a future date. That way I can just get rid of that email. But if it's an email containing important information which I will need to refer to in the future, for example, let's say it's a uni assignment and the deadline's in 2 months, and there's a PDF outlining, the project requirements or whatever it is that I'll need to refer to. If I don't plan to start my project in another month, but I need to look at that email in a month, then I can just literally snooze that email for next month. That way it will not only act as a reminder, but because I know that PDF attachment is there, I can use that next month when I actually do start working on my project. Okay, so once you've done whatever that needs to be done with the email, either replying, snoozing, so on and so forth, you need to deal with that email. And I either do one of two things. That's either to delete the email or to archive it. Generally, I tend to archive most of the emails, and I tend to delete the emails that I know I won't need to refer to in the future. So for example, if it's just a task and I've added it onto my things and I don't need that email anymore, then I'll just delete it. However, if I may need to refer back to that email, then I can just easily archive it, because then I can search in my archive if I ever need to look that thing up. So I either delete or archive. Next is about using folders. So I rarely tend to use folders because most of the emails I'll have gone through this step process and dealt with it, archived it, deleted it, replied to it, so on and so forth. But what I do use folders for are for my newsletters that I've subscribed to. And so I have a folder called Newsletter Saved, and what I do is when I subscribe to a newsletter, I'll add a filter on my Gmail to forward it onto that newsletter saved folder. And so only when I have a bit of extra time and I feel like looking at my newsletter saved folder, then I'll go ahead and read a couple of newsletters. That way I can also give time for newsletters to build up, so that I can just have a look to see which one I like the look of and then read that, as opposed to just reading every single newsletter that comes my way. And sometimes I can have a look and say, okay, right, this newsletter that I subscribed to is actually a little bit spammy and maybe I'm not interested in it anymore. But because all of those emails are in that same folder, I can just easily unsubscribe to it and then delete those emails. And so that way you don't have things just wasting your time and clogging up your inbox. And the whole point of Inbox Zero is about being more intentional with your time. So if you found this helpful and you want to learn more productivity tips that I use and some of my favorite tools and apps which has literally changed the game for me, then click this video over here. With that being said, if you're new, subscribe to my channel and subscribe to my email newsletter as well. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you again in my next video.